The Babylon Project was our last best hope for sci-fi, a self-contained podcast 1 hour long located on the internet, a place of fun and discussion for Babylon 5 fans everywhere, a shining beacon in cyberspace, all alone in the night. It was the dawn of the 20th anniversary of Babylon 5, the year the Great War to free Bab 5 came upon us all. This is the story of the last of the Babylon podcast. The year is 2016. The name of the place is the Babylon Project Podcast.
This is Maggie Egan, your ISN news anchor, and you're listening to the Babylon Project podcast.
Hello there, Babylon 5 fans. This is Raul Wybera and Jim Arrowwood, and we are bringing you yet another action-packed, in this case, very arc-packed episode of the Babylon Project podcast. How are you tonight, my friend?
I am great and ready to talk about episode 2-13, Hunter Prey.
Hunter Prey. Yeah, this is a big arc episode. You get a lot of background information. I don't know.
Well, we get some clarification for sure.
On first glance, it connects to the big story, and I guess one way of putting it is you don't realize how arc it is until long afterwards. It's sort of a turning point in a couple of ways for the story.
Yeah, JMS did quite a few of these where there's little things that if you watch closely enough, they become very, very significant later on.
Yes, indeed. And, I think probably the easiest way to understand that would be if you gave us a summary.
Okay.
Archive. Access. Initiated.
Special Agent Cranston from Earth Force comes aboard the station and explains that he is searching for Dr. Everett Jacobs, who is being accused of stealing sensitive information that could compromise the security of Earth Force. An associate of General Haig contacts Sheridan telling him that Cranston is actually looking for Dr. Jacobs because he has a data crystal in his possession with information that now President Clark was perfectly healthy when he departed Earth Force 1 just 24 hours before the ship exploded, thus casting more light on the suspicions that Clark was part of a conspiracy to assassinate the late President Santiago. Dr. Franklin accompanies Garibaldi as they go undercover to search the down-below areas of the station for Dr. Jacobs, and hopefully capture him before Cranston does. Franklin and Garibaldi are successful in locating Dr. Jacobs and rescue him from a bounty hunter that is looking to cash in by turning Jacobs over to Cranston. Cranston orders a scan of the station to locate Jacobs, but he has no success because Jacobs has been hidden in Kosh's organic ship, which is impervious to scans. Finally, concluding that Dr. Jacobs has managed to get himself off the station, Cranston departs to continue his pursuit elsewhere. Sheridan confronts Kosh about the dream he had while being held captive on the Stribe ship, in which Kosh appeared. Kosh agrees to give Sheridan lessons that will help him learn more about himself, the Vorlons, and how to fight legends. Well, there it is.
Character. Files. Opened.
Yes, there it certainly is. And yeah, you slipped a few of the forward-looking comments in there, so that, folks, tells you what we were talking about earlier.
Correct.
Now, guest cast, who did we have this time?
Who is in this show? Well, we've got quite a few.
Mm-hmm.
Bernie Casey plays Derek Cranston.
Right.
And we would recognize him from the Martian Chronicles television miniseries from 1980.
Uh-huh.
And he was in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, a member of the Maquis.
Okay.
Yeah, he betrayed Starfleet and angered Benjamin Sisko a great deal. And he appears also in the season 3 premiere, Matters of Honor.
Oh, yes, he did. I don't think he was. Yeah, I don't think he got a credit for that one though.
Yeah. We have Jeff Conway, we've talked about before,
Right.
as Zach.
Right, and he hardly counts anymore as guest cast.
Yeah, well, that'll change in season 3, doesn't it?
Yep. He's full time.
But he's listed as guest cast, so we got to mention it.
Mhm.
Wanda de Jesus as Sarah.
Yes.
She was in RoboCop 2 in 1990. Spider-Man, the television series, in 1996, and Ghosts of Mars in 2001. And I have seen her on some show. I think she played a police officer in NYPD Blue, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. I know she's still around. I know she did some Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah. She's a really, really good actress and
Versatile.
does a great job. And she plays always, when I've seen her, she always plays a very straightforward character, plain speaking, no BS whatsoever. So we have Tony Steedman as Dr. Everett Jacobs.
Right.
And one of my favorite movies he was in is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Socrates.
Well, or as the boys called him, Socrates.
Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah.
That is probably what most people know him as. Oh gosh, at least here in America.
Yeah, that was priceless. Okay, and
I remember him from Scrooged actually too.
Okay,
that's one of my wife's favorite Christmas movies. Every Christmas, she has to watch Scrooged, or not Scrooged, but she has to watch Scrooged. Yeah, Scrooged, and I get to watch Die Hard. Hey, Die Hard, best Christmas movie ever made.
And my favorite Christmas movies are the Star Trek movies because I'm on break from school for 2 weeks. So I have to get my head straight watching Star Trek again. But at any rate, last but not least on our guest cast list is Richard Mall as Max, or as you call him, Lurch.
In my notes, yeah. Okay.
Buck Rogers in the 25th Century from 1980. Highlander, the television series, 1992. But his best known role, of course, is Bull in Night Court.
Oh, yeah.
The bailiff.
Yeah. And the guy is unforgettable.
Oh, yeah. Well, in Night Court, he was kind of a gentle giant.
But the guy is, this is another one of the guys, just totally versatile. And if you've seen pictures of him in the full beard, I mean, it's like, just go look at his, at some of his pictures on IMDb. It's like the way he can just change how he comes across. It's just incredible.
I agree.
Initiating plot analysis.
So, my friend, Hunter Prey.
Yeah, we open our show in Bay 13.
Yeah, Lucky 13.
Yeah.
So who's going to store their ship in Bay 13, do you think?
Well, of course.
Of course.
Our favorite Vorlon, Kosh.
Yep, you got it. Okay, Susan says she just likes to come down and watch it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think you've got this as a clip.
I believe I do.
The conversation. Go ahead and let's it tells us all.
It's beautiful. I've never seen anything like it. There's no sign of instrumentation, no visible way in or out. It's absolutely seamless. Amazing. What kind of propulsion system does it have?
No idea. In the 2 years since Ambassador Kosh arrived in this thing, we've run a few surface scans, as much as we thought we could get away with. We could barely even get through the skin.
And it's just been sitting here this whole time.
Mostly. He's taken it out once or twice, but just to the Vorlon homeworld and then back again. Sometimes, late at night, I just come here and watch it. If you look carefully, you can actually see the patterns on the skin changing slightly.
I can't even imagine the kind of science that's behind something like this. They must be at least 1,000 years ahead of us. I'd give a year's pay to see what's inside this thing.
And with that, Sheridan approaches the ship,
Uh-huh.
and the ship don't like that.
Nope, nope, nope. Ship with attitude. And good aim. You notice that targeting beam is right over his heart.
Exactly. And then he backs off. Susan tells him, hey, you're getting too close. Time to move back.
The question is, would the ship have really killed him, or was he just making a point?
I don't think he wanted to find out.
Oh, I sure wouldn't want to. I mean, like I said, a ship with attitude and good aim. It talks to people in their sleep. I want one.
Uh-huh.
I want one. Oh, and it talks to Kosh, too, we find out, because who's been lurking in the background?
Yeah, well, Kosh, he's of course observing.
Mm-hmm.
And the ship gives him some sort of cryptic message.
Yeah, in the Vorlon language.
Yeah. And now, let's see, the ship itself is actually a living being.
Yes.
From what I understand.
Which we get confirmed later in the episode.
Yeah. Do you think perhaps that the message that the ship gave to Kosh may not have been, well, let me put it this way. When the ship told Sheridan to back off, that there may have also been a scanning beam in there, and the ship gave instructions to Kosh?
I gave instructions to Kosh? Probably not.
Okay.
Kosh definitely being the dominant of the two. And I say that because we know what happens to the ship later, that the ship is built for Kosh, etc.
Mm.
But could there have been a scan above and beyond? Could Kosh have wanted Sheridan to meet the ship, as it were? Those are things I think are entirely possible, and certainly with what happens later in the episode, I can't help but wonder if Kosh was asking the ship, well, what do you think of him?
Yeah, could be. Could very well be.
Well, we get into the main story, and that is, it turns out that the president's personal physician is on the run with a shoot-to-kill order out on him.
Yeah, if he doesn't cooperate, the orders are to take him down.
Yeah. Wow. Gee, I wonder if that's the case, based on what we know, if, maybe there might be some other people interested as well. But there is an Agent Cranston leading the investigation, and apparently the doc has classified information of some sort.
Well, yeah, and the way Cranston puts it is he has sensitive information that could bring down the entire EarthGov complex, just take everything apart.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll find out that's kind of true, but...
Well, yeah, the truth is in there, but there's a whole lot of fluff around that. In other words, he was making him sound treasonous when he is a whistleblower.
And the truth of the matter is, whether Cranston is being honest or not really kind of depends on how much does he really know.
Well, and that's true too. He may only be repeating what he's been told by his superiors. That's very true.
Now, the truth is, though, either case, Cranston is telling the truth here.
Yeah. But see, then Garibaldi says that he's not telling everything.
No, and like Sheridan answered, his kind never do. So that's the real question. Yeah, we don't know how much he knows. And Garibaldi's out talking to Franklin. What can a simple doctor get hold of that is so dangerous? I mean, Franklin says he'd never sell out Earth, but the question becomes, is selling out Earth the same as protecting the president?
Yeah. Well, if the president needs to be sold out, then he would be completely in the right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love the back reference when Franklin and Garibaldi are talking. The back reference to the episode Infection in season 1.
The last time one of your doctor friends came on board, we wound up with the station wrecked. And
yeah. Well, we get our view of Dr. Jacobs real soon here. And all I can say is Dr. Jacobs is not very good at keeping a low profile.
No, well, he's never had to do that before. He's always, obviously, as the physician to the president of EarthGov, he would never have had to do something like that.
Yeah, but you would think almost anyone would know that the correct question when someone asks, or when someone informs you, rather, that it's going to be expensive, the correct response is never, that doesn't matter, I can pay it. The correct response is, what do you mean by expensive?
Yeah. Well, I'll just put it this way. I'll paraphrase. Damn it, Raoul, he's a doctor, not a criminal.
God, I knew that would be coming from you. And hey, we see a favorite actor lurking in the shadows.
Uh-huh.
I've used the word lurking a few times here tonight. Babylon 5 lurking. Makes sense.
Yeah. We get Max stalking the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to kind of wonder if he doesn't know something.
Well, you certainly recognizes the guy doesn't fit in here.
Yeah.
And it seems there's some sort of rumor mill floating around, so heavens knows what's going on in that regard. But, okay, Sheridan, Kosh, yeah, in our next scene.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you expect for that conversation?
Exactly. You're going to get Sheridan asking straight questions and Kosh giving answers couched in riddles.
Yeah, but he does actually give one straight answer. When Sheridan asks if that had ever happened before, Kosh just says, once. And, of course, walks off.
Yeah.
So what was that once?
Could be a few things.
I mean, Sinclair, Valen, Ducat?
Yeah.
Well, Sheridan gets a signal, and this is where the plot thickens a bit. So Sheridan gets a signal for a meeting.
Right. There's a little red ribbon tied at the top of a ladder, and he happens to notice that.
So it turns out he's getting a message from the general through an intermediary, and apparently Dr. Jacobs has some fairly significant evidence.
Yeah, now the general mentioned, that would be General Haig, right?
Yeah, it would almost have to be.
Okay.
That's the only one we've encountered so far as the suspicions, concerns, what have you, where President Clark are related.
Okay,
and
he's not mentioned by name at all.
Correct. But Jacobs knows that Clark wasn't sick, and he jumped ship, Clark that is, before President Santiago blew up.
Uh-huh.
Just before, apparently.
Well, the 24 hours before, he jumped off at Io, claiming to be sick.
Right. And then the reason he's on the run now is that, well, obviously because he knows Clark wasn't sick, and he basically got away before he could be, as the word they used, disappeared.
Correct. And Sheridan will, and the first thing Sheridan does is call Michael on the link.
Yeah.
That was a good move.
Absolutely. And it shows you the level, of trust and the level of respect, I guess is the right word, that Sheridan has for Mike.
Yeah, he has a great deal of confidence in him, which is going to really, really get shaken up in the future.
Yeah. It's going to get shaken up and it's going to get patched back together.
Uh-huh.
That is actually some of the creepiest parts of the season 4 arc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it
But
is.
let's not jump ahead though. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yes.
But we switch back to MedLab, and what do we have here? A sick Pakmara and a hidden message from Mike.
Yeah. Well, the sick Pakmara, he's just kind of laying there looking around, and I got to really hand it to Richard Biggs. He did that medical double talk just perfectly. Yeah, I wonder how much rehearsal time it took for him to get that down.
I have no idea, but my wife, she's starting into voiceover work, and one of the things her coaches had, advised her is go ahead and list technobabble because apparently it is a bit of a talent or an art to be able to see something like that and actually make it sound like you know what you're talking about.
Oh, it's amazing, and he sells it big time.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
anyway, you mentioned a hidden message from Mike.
Mm-hmm. Sheridan goes to Mike for help, and Mike goes to Franklin.
Yeah, and Mike sends Franklin a message that says, "Happy birthday."
Uh-huh. Well, that's the voice message.
And Franklin says, it's not my birthday,
So he single frames it.
knowing Mike.
Okay, you just answered my question before I could ask it exactly.
Yeah.
And Mike wants him alone and dressed comfortable.
Yeah, and I couldn't help but wonder if they weren't having another Banya Kauda party or something.
Has that? Yeah, that has happened already.
Oh, yeah.
I got to make that someday. Heart attack in a bowl.
Yeah, seriously. Okay.
The doc, we keep some track of what's going on with him.
Mm-hmm.
The doc is running on stims pretty much.
Yeah.
And, this kind of introduces the whole stem thing. And it very obliquely, but it really lays the ground for what's going to be happening in future seasons, especially 3, and perhaps a little bit, in fact, in this one.
Well, at any rate, the people that are now looking for the doctor have been given scanners.
Right.
Okay. And Cranston mentions that all the highest level people in the government have been fitted with tracking implants.
Right.
And so, of course, the doctor knows this. And so he's got to keep moving or he is going to get caught.
Yeah. But, okay, why does... And we see Zach almost, start to get a hit. He gets a ping. And the doc goes through that doorway. And why does an open grate block the darn signal?
Well, and I knew you were wondering that, and after giving it a little bit of thought, I believe that grate was acting somewhat as a Faraday cage.
Yeah, and I think I may have another idea.
Okay.
And this just popped in my head because a little later in the episode, we see the grate come up with Richard Mull behind it, standing there, arms akimbo. But in this scene, it was a solid door first, and then it was the grate. I think we might be falling victim to high def here. Remember, it was filmed in 16:9, but it was originally broadcast in standard def.
Uh-huh.
And it affects the way they fit. But you know how in high def, sometimes you can even see where they painted the wood on the wall. I wonder if that was supposed to be a freight elevator.
Could be.
Wall that disappeared, and then I'm just betting that I bet that's what it was. I bet it was a freight elevator.
Well, could very well be.
That explains it at least.
Of course, why would anybody that happens by have access to a freight elevator?
No idea, but it is down below.
I would think that you would have to have some kind of a key.
Well, Mike is on his stakeout.
Yep.
And he's admittedly a little bit better at being indiscreet than Jacobs.
Yeah.
Who's already been captured, of course.
Yeah. In some ways, Mike is a little bit better at being discreet. I love the hat. Love the fedora he's wearing, but it sure does stand out.
Nah, not really. It stands out by not... It's discreet by standing out. and that's the trick of it. You don't want to be seen as trying to not be seen if you don't want to be seen.
Isn't that from Monty Python?
I don't know.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm thinking of a sketch that they did called How Not to Be Seen.
How Not to Be Seen? Oh,
Yeah.
God. I'll have to look that one up on YouTube. I don't remember it off the top of my head.
Oh, you'll love it.
But, yeah, I wear a fedora regularly, too. So for me, it was a real nice touch.
Yeah. I love that hat. Not everybody can wear those.
I'll agree with that. Mine is more of the outdoors, a little wider brimmed fedora, sort of more in the Indiana Jones style.
Mm-hmm.
Lamb's felt. It's actually my scout hat.
Ah.
But instead of going with a cap, I hate caps. I went with the more of the Indiana Jones style of wider brimmed lamb's felt fedora.
Okay.
It didn't take Lurch long to figure out most of what's going on, did it?
No, Max had a pretty good handle on what was happening. Gets his hands on the data crystal.
Ooh.
With all the information.
Yep.
And you know what? If he actually finds out what is on that, he is as good as dead.
Yeah. Sheridan's contact had made comment that anyone he came in contact with would be disappeared as well, so.
Yeah.
Right.
So now we get Cranston
Uh-huh.
doing the best he can to throw his weight around with Sheridan and the command staff.
And Sheridan suggests he goes downtown.
Where the heck is downtown?
Oh, God. A sealed off section of the ship by the garbage recyclers.
Yeah. I was going to say, we've heard about Brown Sector. We've heard about Down Below and all this. But downtown, that was a new one.
Uh-huh.
But downtown?
Yeah, Sheridan making it up as he goes along.
Oh, yeah, and doing a great job.
Yeah, a bit of a wild goose chase. And yeah, that's not going to be fun for the troops.
No, well, he's got to keep the goon squad off balance.
Yeah.
Mike needs a chance to get the job done.
Yep. And we get an interesting message here. Kosh wants to meet Sheridan.
Yeah.
That, as has been noted, has not happened yet with Sinclair or Sheridan or anyone.
No.
Nope.
And Susan mentions that.
Uh-huh.
Hey, in all the time I've been here, Kosh has never wanted to see anybody.
Yeah, usually he goes out of his way to avoid people.
Mm-hmm.
And switch over. Mike and Franklin, they're not really having a whole lot of luck.
Nope. Time to take a break.
Yep. And you notice they still seem to have, I don't know if that was a Nature Valley granola bar, or I can't remember exactly which brand that was, but I know I've seen that label before.
Looked like one of those cereal bars.
Uh-huh. Glad to know they still have them. Some sort of fruity oat bar.
Yeah, there you go.
Ooh, fruity oat bars. That's what they could have done. They could have played the commercial, and, well, they would have needed Summer Glau as a guest star, but she would have been a little too young to, sorry, Firefly references.
You know that every show that Summer Glau gets put on gets canceled.
Well, every show that every actor gets put on gets canceled eventually. Well,
and if I'm not mistaken, Summer Glau was still in diapers when Babylon 5
that's
was on.
there is the problem. In fact, the only show that I know of that hasn't been canceled at some point yet would be probably The Tonight Show and Doctor Who. Hey, and Arrow has not been canceled yet.
Oh, okay. I don't watch Arrow, so.
Summer Glau was on Arrow as a special, more than a guest star, but less than a regular.
Okay.
For, I guess, about half the second season or half the third season.
Yeah. Not
quite sure which. So, not quite a curse. I still want to see her on Dancing with the Stars. Hey, Wayne Henderson, if you're listening, you're another DWTS fan. We need to start a petition for that.
You guys have fun with that.
But this is not a Summer Glau fan podcast, so. Oh, gosh. Oh, Franklin, though, and Mike. Yeah, the granola bars. I like the conversation. Maybe someone should have labeled the future some assembly required. Oh, gosh. Yeah, Mike gets cranky when his feet hurt, doesn't he?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, when he talking to that merchant. Ooh.
Well, that guy just apparently did not know Garibaldi very well. Just
No.
kept giving him these stock answers, and Michael finally said, "That's enough."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gets a bit of an attitude correction here. Well, like Mike said earlier, all they see is the badge when he's down there, usually
Mhm.
in uniform. Yeah. Cranston and Lurch are pretty quick. I guess
Yeah.
Max are pretty quick to make a deal, huh?
Oh, yeah. 10,000 credits.
Yep, which also kind of means the clock is running at this point.
Cranston didn't bat an eye.
Well, that's pocket change for his world,
Yeah.
first of all. And is he actually going to pay it?
Yeah, I have to wonder if Max is that stupid to think he's just going to hand over this money.
Yeah.
Here's the data, Chris. Oh, here's 10,000. Baloney.
I think what's going to it's going to depend mostly on whether Cranston has any suspicion whether or not Max actually looked at what was on the crystal.
If it were written that way, Cranston wouldn't question it one way or another. He would just assume that, yes, the information has been compromised and Max gets disappeared.
Yeah, Max becomes a liability.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Wow. From here, we're going into what actually, personally, is my favorite part of the show.
Ah.
The Kosh and Sheridan, what's the word I'm looking for? I hesitate to call it a conversation. Wait, do you have the clip for this?
I do.
You wanted to see me?
You wanted to see me.
Well, I guess everybody does. To see what you really are inside that encounter suit.
They are not ready. They would not understand.
Am I ready?
No, you do not even understand yourself.
Could you help me to understand you?
Can you help me to understand you?
Well, I can try. Is that what you want? In exchange of information? I tell you something about me and you tell me something about you?
No, you do not understand. Go.
Damn it, what do you want? What do you want from me? Ever since I got here, I've had the feeling that you've been watching me. The record shows you hardly ever went to council meetings until I showed up, when I was captured. It was you. Reached out and touched my mind. And now you call me here? Why? Just to throw me out? Are we just toys to you? Huh? What do you want?
Never ask that question.
At least I got a response out of you. So what'll it be, Ambassador?
I will teach you.
About yourself?
About you. Until you are ready.
For what?
To fight legends.
Yeah, to fight legends. Like I said, this is flat out my favorite part of the whole episode.
Oh, yeah. And the neat thing is at one point, Kosh had said, or had pretty much, is that you don't understand and turn around. I'm done with you. I can't even talk to you. And then Sheridan says, what do you want? And oh boy, I never saw Kosh move so fast.
Gets her eyes. Yeah. Gee, well, who's asking that question?
Yeah, and then there was that boom in the music right after he said, what do you want? Bam! And Kosh turns around and hands it to him.
Yep. Yeah. Now, here's the question. Is this a matter of Kosh choosing Sheridan for his role in the future here? Or is this, whether it is fate, whether it is the universe, following Delen's theology, or whether it's the hand of God following Sheridan and Sinclair's theology that is putting him in that place?
Mm-hmm.
You follow? I mean, is this always his intended task, or is Kosh just picking him?
Well, I think perhaps he senses something in Sheridan that would put him in a position to fight the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the way I think about World War II. Okay, it's really amazes me the people that came together. I mean, Roosevelt, Churchill, yada da blah 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 blah. All those names. It seemed like that group of people came together for that time in history, and if any one of them had not been present there, the outcome wouldn't have been right.
But it's still that's still not answering the philosophical question. Were they supposed to be there? Whether it's God, the universe, whatever philosophical system you want to appeal to, were they supposed to be there, or was it just random events?
Well, I think. Well, you know which way I'm going to go.
Actually, no, I don't.
I don't think there was any divine intervention.
Not necessarily, like I said, but that's why I say I expanded it. That's one of the reasons why I expanded it beyond simply, just a hand of God thing.
Yeah, I think.
But is it just random molecules bouncing around?
Oh,
The way Sheridan was being watched by Kosh before, and the context of that, and his already being involved with Earth, and the suspicions of what's going on with Earth and the cycle, and that being, it becomes a philosophical conundrum. And remember, Straczynski's an agnostic, so he doesn't. He still loves to dig into those kinds of philosophical questions.
I think what you have here is a 50-50 setup. Okay, Kosh recognizes qualities that Sheridan has, and then Kosh decides to guide Sheridan to fulfill this destiny, if I can say.
Yeah. Now, I'm asking this for a reason, okay? It's not just, this is not just sort of a random throwing out there. There's actually a reason the question is coming up, because right now we're about midway through season 2. There is an episode coming right before the climax of season 2. The penultimate episode is very slow action, very cerebral, very philosophical. It's called Comes the Inquisitor. And this particular question is going to be a big part of what Straczynski is playing with as far as a mind game, not just with Sheridan and Delen, but with us as the audience and viewers as well. So I wanted to get that seed in your head.
Okay.
Because that is definitely going to be a conversation that's going to be coming up in a much more interesting way soon.
Well, we've never been afraid to delve into philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah. But this is a great one. And it's Comes the Inquisitor for me. Anthony gets very disturbed by it, but for me, it's a really deep episode. It's one of the deeper episodes in the show.
Yeah. Well, it's very spooky, but
oh yeah,
let's save it for then.
Exactly. But like I said, I wanted to get that prepped out. That said, ow, screwdriver in the arm. That hurts.
Yeah, hits Mike with a screwdriver, stabs him.
Ooh. I've had a couple of puncture injuries before, not in the arm like that, but one of those things that causes sympathy pain.
Okay, fortunately, I've never experienced that.
Nail through the hand.
Yeah, I've never had that happen.
So just the heebie-jeebies thinking about it.
Yeah.
But Franklin to rescues the day.
Yes, Franklin to the rescue, and I'll tell you what, the guy can fight.
Yeah, not very elegantly, not very stylishly, but he certainly gets the job done.
Well, and you know something that just as a little aside note, it kind of disturbed me.
Hmm?
As a doctor, I mean, he got the guy off a mic, he hit him, and then he kicked him.
Yeah.
I thought that was a little bit out of character for a doctor.
Oh, was the guy still getting up, or was it just after effect?
Oh, don't recall seeing him getting back up. I just boom, boom, and Franklin kicked him.
Well, if you've had any sort of self-defense training, that's more or less what you would be taught to do.
Yeah, when the guy's down?
Yeah.
Okay.
You notice he kicked up. He didn't stop. He kicked the guy. He didn't stomp the guy.
Yeah.
So he wasn't completely down.
Okay.
But yeah, I can get where, but just remember, and my background slipping in here from the clinical side, doctors are people too, and you get that same adrenaline rush, that same fight or flight. Why act any different than any other normal person?
Yeah. Well,
Mostly because they are just a normal person.
yeah, I'll give you that one.
Yep. And you notice Mike is still cranky.
Oh,
Sorry, damn cranky, I think was his word.
Yes. That was an awesome scene.
It was fun. I, if I had thought of it, I would have asked you to get a clip on that one, but
Well, we don't really
doesn't.
need it. We got Mike
No.
walking forward, firing his PPG all around Max.
Yep.
And when he is done, Max reaches in, pulls out the data crystal, and hands it over, and looks like
A whipped puppy.
yeah, he ain't all as tough as he
No.
first comes across.
No. I think he's smart enough to recognize a bluff when he sees one, and this one wasn't a bluff, I think.
No, well, see, he had gotten on the wrong side of Mike, and it always that scene reminds me of something my dad used to say.
Huh?
My dad would say, "Are you mad?" And when we were kids, we'd go, "Yes." "Are you really, really mad?" "Oh, yes." My dad would say, "Then you're getting just right for me."
Oh, no. Oh, gosh. I'm going to borrow that one someday, I think, with Antonio.
Oh, yeah, you got to use that. That's a good one.
Oh, well, problem is not quite solved yet, though.
No.
They've got the data crystal, they've got the doctor, they've managed to steer Cranston's and the security people away.
Mm-hmm.
But Cranston seems to have figured out that there's still a way to find this.
Well, he is completely convinced that Dr. Jacobs is on the station,
Mm-hmm.
and he wants him found.
Right.
One way or the other. Now, of course, he knows, well, I shouldn't say he's convinced that he is. He knows he is because Max told him he is.
Yeah. Well, Sheridan actually has a reasonable answer for that that we find out later. And, anyone's going to scam you when they find out you're after something. But Cranston has heard about an ability to do an internal scan.
Yes.
And he's a little bent out of shape that they didn't bring this idea to him earlier. And I love Susan's answer.
He's very indignant about this. Why didn't you tell me?
You didn't ask.
Yeah.
I've got a problem with what happens next. And it's actually my only problem with the episode. But why didn't they just take out the dang nabbed tracking chip?
Well.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, from a plot perspective, yeah, it's the whole Vorlon ship bit, but still, as they like to say today, and my son's used a few times, #facepalm.
Oh, no, I mean, we've got a story here. We've got a guy that's on the run. There really isn't time for them to do that.
But there's time to patch up Garibaldi's screwdrivered arm.
Well, but you notice they were doing that in Sheridan's quarters?
Yeah.
Okay. We've still got these goons running around with these scanners.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so...
Yeah. Well, anyway, regardless, they do the scan fails, and Kosh is asking permission to leave.
Yep.
Yeah, a Vorlon asking permission.
Yeah, for anything.
Right.
Yeah, they tend not to be extremely cooperative.
Well, they're very cooperative as long as you're doing just what they want.
Yeah, as long as you're the one doing the cooperating.
Right. But Cranston wants them to scan the ship. And you remember what I said about hashtag facepalm?
Uh-huh.
I mean, let's take stupid to a new level.
Oh, yeah. We've got one of the most powerful races in the galaxy, and this Cranston wants to...
honk off the Vorlons really, really bad.
Yeah, violate a race that is so powerful. And and Sheridan tries to explain this to him. Hey, dummy, that is Vorlon property. You don't violate that without permission.
And we've seen in the past, all the way back to the pilot episode, the Vorlons get very touchy about having their property violated.
Absolutely. Well, they are a very secretive people.
Yeah, but, and this gets back to why they didn't just take out the chip to begin with, we do find out a couple of very interesting things about the Vorlon ship.
Mm-hmm.
One, it can completely shield against Earth Alliance scans. Big surprise. Susan kind of mentioned that earlier.
Right.
And two, it's alive!
Yeah, it's a living being.
Yes.
And it sings. Now,
I
don't
promise
you start singing.
I won't. I was going to say, I won't. I promise.
Thank you. Now, I would really, really love to hear some Vorlon folk songs.
I don't know why when you say that the word Vogon poetry keeps popping into my head.
No, Vorlon.
Got you there.
Vorlon folk songs.
Oh, golly. Yes.
I wish I had time to write a commercial for that, New on K-Tel, Vorlon folk songs, starring Kosh.
Well, considering the whole idea about ship and singing and the way it keeps coming back, kind of makes you curious. It does. It really does. It's a good question.
Yeah.
But
and what's really sad is I don't think we ever really get an answer.
No, we don't. All we know is that music must be pretty dang important to the Vorlons. So,
oh yeah,
that that kind of fits in with something that I will tell my wife. Well, you're a musician, so you can understand how they get discouraged at times.
Oh yes.
The way I describe it, because I do the clinical research and the engineering, and she sometimes gets really discouraged and just brushes it off as music. And why I have to explain, she's like, no, sweetie, you don't get it. If it wasn't for what you do, what I do wouldn't matter a damn, which is something I truly, truly believe.
No argument here. I mean, remember back that movie, Mr. Holland's Opus?
Yep. I've had more than one person compare her to him.
Yeah.
So anyway,
she doesn't direct with her left hand though, does she?
I don't think so.
Good.
In fact, I noticed because I remember her when she finally watched it, getting a little annoyed about some of the technical inaccuracies.
Yeah.
Anyway, we finally wrap up the episode, and Sheridan's contact is right. Next times are definitely good things, because without a next time, it's probably a firing squad.
Uh-huh.
So.
Well, now, does this evidence that we have.
Yes.
Does it ever come up in the future? I
am almost certain it does. It's more mentioned in passing in the context of the rebellion, when there's actually, when the Civil War actually breaks out. I believe it is mentioned in passing as part of the bits of evidence in the cumulative case against Clark as part of the justification.
Okay.
It's not mentioned by Sheridan necessarily, but, Susan gets that bit of evidence that she found when she's in the Great Machine. And there's a point where that's mentioned, and the story about Clark not being ill and blah, blah, blah. So it kind of all comes out in that. And like I said, it's just a passing reference, but we do know it does get used at some point to some degree.
Okay. Well, we'll have to keep our eyes open for that.
Indeed, we will. That's going to be over in the third season, though. So we've got about I guess the breakaway. So we've got about a dozen and a half episodes until around that time.
Yeah. Well, we've about wrapped this one up, though.
Yeah, that certainly covers Hunter Prey. And like I said, it doesn't seem so on the surface, but ultimately it is an arc episode.
It is.
Mm-hmm. So any final thoughts on this one?
No, it was a good show. I enjoyed it. It had its ins and outs.
Mm-hmm.
Characters we could like and characters not to like. So,
and some of the best Kosh moments of the show.
Yeah. We actually get him saying something.
Mm-hmm. In the context of a conversation, even.
Yes.
And I'm trying to think, does that actually happen anywhere else in the series? I mean, a full-blown conversation.
I'm sure it does.
I can certainly think of one case, but it's not really Kosh talking. It's just Kosh talking. But that's a little further down in, what episode is it? That's a little further down in, I believe, season 3.
Yeah. Well, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
In the meantime, we're going to wrap this one up, and I want to start out by telling everybody that our podcast is edited by our good friend Troy Rudder.
An awesome Babylon 5 fan and definitely a Babylon 5 expert.
Oh, yes. And I'll tell you what, if you are interested, he enjoys one of his hobbies is collecting autographs through the mail, TTM through the mail. And if you would like to, jump on over to YouTube, youtube.com/user/Troy Rudder, Troy A. Rudder, and check out some of his videos. He gets autographs all the time, packages full of them. Kind of neat. But, yep, I want to just say thanks, Troy.
Yep. Troy, I don't know how to thank you enough. You've done a fantastic job. We do want as much feedback as we can get. We love hearing your thoughts and comments. And the more feedback we get, the sooner we'll do another feedback episode, too.
Well, how do we find out where people send us this feedback you're soliciting?
Well, the wonderful lady with the silken pipes, or as I call her, the silver-tongued lass, that will be speaking as soon as we sign off. We'll tell everyone how to do just that.
Oh, well, then I'm not going to worry about it.
Mm-hmm. So, from that point, I can't help but ask, no boom today?
Oh, no, there was no boom today.
Not at all. A few PPG blasts.
That's about it.
No boom. Boom tomorrow?
Most likely there will be boom tomorrow.
Yeah, there's always a boom tomorrow.
Or so it seems.
Or so it seems. Good night, everyone.
Well, so long.
Podcast terminated. Thank you for listening to the Babylon Project podcast. You can email Raul and Jim at the Babylon Project podcast @gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook at the Babylon Project Podcast. On the internet, we are at babylonprojectpodcast.wordpress.com. To subscribe to the podcast, you can find us on iTunes, or you can subscribe to the RSS feed on the webpage.